Hello, I'd like to share some ways that you and/or your practice can ensure the keeping of your hard-earned money if, or more likely when, you are audited by a payer. Audits are a great way for payers to move money from your pockets to theirs, and unfortunately, they are on the rise across the board. So let's set the stage. You are sitting in your office one afternoon catching up on paperwork, and your receptionist brings you a letter that has been sitting in a pile of mail on a former employee's desk for days. It is from an entity that you've never heard of, it requests patient records, and the purported deadline is looming. What do? I'd urge you to consider 7 primary things. First and foremost, determine the source. See if you can determine where the letter came from. Government and commercial payers both use outside entities to conduct audits, and it may not be readily apparent from the letter who is requesting those records. Knowing who the request is coming from is key in knowing what type of audit is taking place and in making sure that you are not improperly disclosing records under HIPAA or other state laws. Unless you've been through this many times and are certain the inquiry is only routine, it is wise to reach out to a healthcare attorney at this point. Once we know where an audit is coming from, we can give you a sense of the nature of the audit, the likely path it will take, and importantly, the possible outcomes. Even if you don't want your attorney integrally involved in every step of this process, it will certainly help to know what you may be facing. Second, request an extension of the deadline if you need more time to compile a thorough response. If the mail has been sitting on someone else's desk for a while, you may have no choice but to request that extension. Third, you need to gather the requested records, and you want to make sure that your records are as complete as possible. But do not, under any circumstances, modify your records. It is much easier to deal with an inadequate documentation issue than a potential fraud case. However, you can certainly send all information that you believe is necessary to fully respond to the request, whether it is all contained within one part of the record or not, while being mindful of your minimum necessary obligation under HIPAA. Next, hire a consultant. Your attorney may recommend engaging a consultant. If you can at all afford it, do it. It may save you a lot of money down the road. A good consultant can help to identify potential coding problems that subjected you to the audit in the first place. Knowing these issues before records are submitted can help you to defend your position. As I said a few moments ago, while a particular record of a patient encounter may not be perfect, you may be able to supply other information from your record to bolster your case, but you will only be able to do this if you know where your weak spots are. Use your lawyer. You may know some coding consultants, your colleagues may know some, you may have used someone good before, but avoid the temptation to simply call one of these contacts and ask her what she thinks. Nothing said between you and the consultant is privileged. Have your attorney engage the consultant, with all communication running through the attorney, to preserve attorney-client privilege and avoid the consultant having to disclose details regarding his or her work for you and its results. Remember, the consultant may determine that you were indeed wrong. You want those findings to be privileged. Review the findings. After you submit records and the payer reviews them, the payer may request a refund for an alleged overpayment. There are some instances in which you should probably just accept it. However, in my experience, this should be the exception rather than the norm. First, never just assume that the findings are accurate. A good percentage of Medicare RAC audit findings are overturned at a higher stage of appeal. Similarly, there are often strong arguments to be made in Medicaid audits, and the same is true with commercial payers. If you did not previously engage a consultant through your attorney, you may want to do so now. This person can help you to determine where you may have credible arguments to aid your appeal. In addition, simply agreeing to an overpayment may give the payer the sense that you are guilty and may trigger audits of similar claims. They've learned that you're an easy target. Finally, watch deadlines. If you have some arguments and decide to appeal, be mindful of the deadlines. You will only have a certain amount of time in which to challenge the results, and this may be your only time to raise issues. In addition, by appealing timely, you may just be able to avoid recoupment of the funds pending the appeal. One important thing to remember: Regardless of the results of the audit, use it as a learning experience and educate your staff. Payors may be much more sympathetic if you can show that you have done all you can to prevent the issue from happening again. Thanks for listening today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or your healthcare attorney.